Hello, everyone. How are you? I am Violet, and welcome back to the life and of Dr. John Penton. And if you have watched the first 5 episodes of this series, you understand that Dr. Penton has done so much in his life, and is and also very very interesting and things he has done, right? And today, I like to talk to John Penton on a little bit more serious matters, and John, say hello to everyone. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
And so anyway, you started learning from your teacher, Master Lee, in the
Hmm.
back in 1957, and
Yeah,
right, and then
long
back
time.
that long time. I wasn't even born. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But then back those days, I'm 100% certain that most people, not just in the US, just in the West, probably did not know much about the Tai Chi or Qigong, anything. And but you actually started learning from him, of course, from the story you share with us how you started. So it wasn't really like say, oh, you get curious, right? And so now let's looking back and all the things you have accomplished and all the things you have learned from Master Lee. And I'm pretty sure a lot of, like you attributed to his master, right? And in the previous episode, you talk about it. So can you now really summing it up for us? So can you tell us what is really his master and his focus?
Yeah, one of the things I guess it'd be good to say for your audience, Violet, is that back in 1957, I was about 13, 14 years old, 12, somewhere around there. Um, there was hardly even karate in the United States. There was a few people who had come back from Korea who had brought taekwondo and other Korean martial arts, but almost nobody had heard about Chinese martial arts, especially in deep East Texas, where I'm from. Um, Li Long Dao focused on realistic martial training when he started teaching me. He taught me to be healthy, as we covered in the Standing Like a Tree episode, but they were soldiers. So, what he was teaching me, he and his father had done in Chiang Kai shek's army. Um, their methods were about practical martial concepts. And if you got hurt, how to heal yourself in battle, how to develop longevity and health was also part of it. But you have to remember that they were soldiers. Most people in the Chinese martial arts today don't really know because most of these old masters are gone. They're dead now. What we call old school training. It was rough, it was hard, it was difficult, and it was not about getting into a tournament or winning a trophy. It was about surviving if somebody tried to kill you or your family. And this
Well,
was,
actually, yeah, and actually that is similar to the well, since I practice Tian style Tai Chi Chuan, so I I can speak about that, and then how that started also is for survival, and then to fight, and then to protect their village, and then yes, like you said, if they get sick or what, they ever or got injury, how they heal themselves. So it's a
yeah,
more complete system. And unlike today, and people doing it either for health or for performance or for competition, and then it's a very, very and different part. And you, it seems the the family martial art actually has a big component of qigong, right? and
Yes,
either in the healing or whatnot. So can you talk a little bit more about what
sure.
is the family Qigong is like?
Master Lee called it, and you and I talked about this before. He didn't mention the word qigong very often. He talked about Dao Yin, which means to lead and to guide. Now, there's some exercises that people do that they call Dao Yin as well, but if you look at the Chinese translation, it means to lead and to guide. And he was talking about leading and guiding your mind and your body into a place where you could control both of them. So we had two types of Dao Yin or Qigong. I'll probably butcher the Chinese, but the first one was Yangxing Qigong, which means to nurture life, which involves meditation, the Dao Yin practice of leading and guiding the mind. And it has both still practices where you're doing sitting, and it also has moving methods as well. His Tai Chi Bagua Xingyi all had methodologies that help develop the body, mind, and spirit, if you will. The second method that they taught was the one involved with the martial arts, and the term you don't hear very often is Zhan Dao Li Qigong, which means
Oh,
Zhan Dao Li combat effective method. That means using the breath skills. Their family version of Yichuan was part of that Zhan Dao Li Qigong, doing the standing exercises in a special way. They had apparently learned Yichuan early on, but they had changed it some, and I've continued to modify it over the years so that it became something that was where I teach my students. This is what real internal power comes from, is how the mind leads the body, and then the effect happens. So that was part of it. And we also learned, Robert and I and the other boy, Steve, we also learned some Chinese herbal techniques. There wasn't any Chinese herbal stores in those days, but he talked about wildcrafting, what you call it, going out in the woods and finding different things. He taught acupressure and massage to us. So if we got injured, we could help heal the wounds and that sort of thing. That was part of the training um, of his martial tactics and techniques. But again, like I said, they were not tournament people. They were soldiers who really fought. I've got a video on my university that shows some training back from the I think it's 1939, 30. It's actually from a film of Chiang Kai-shek's army training, and he's in that film. So it's very
wow.
interesting. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be great to see it if we have opportunity. That's good. And actually, I just saw like a documentary, and then they talk about traditional Chinese martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as a matter of fact, well, one of my students sent me the video, and he wanted to know what I think. And I thought it was very well made because it really touched the essence of a true martial art. Because true martial art is not just, this skeletal muscle movements. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of, like your master was saying, it's Yangxing, that's nurturing the heart, nurturing the mind. This is very, very important. And then when you have to be very powerful and doing the
Yes.
martial art, actually it coming from the softness side and all these training. And then I think one time you talk about your teacher saying about relaxing song. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you
So,
want to expand a little bit on that concept and then tell us
well,
more about it?
a lot of people talk about the idea of sung and they think it just means to relax, but no, it's to me, we start learning sung in quiet sitting where we sit still and learn to let go of all the tension in the body. I came into the house, my wife is doing crochet right now for some little babies that are going to be born. And I came in and she said, you know, I used something you showed me. I'd created that, what do they call it, sung or something. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, my shoulders were all up like this. And I thought about it and I went, ah, sung. And I let go and I felt so much better and I could go about what I was doing, you know. And so it's a mind, again, it's the mind. You're using the mind to go through your body and find every place where there's a little more tension than there should be, and then learning how to let it go, how to get rid of it, how to release it so it opens up. Master Henry Look and I were close friends, and we used to have these fun little arguments because we would do calligraphy for each other. And
so
my
you're
calligraphy,
talking about Henry Locke is the one doing Qian Manqing style, is that right?
yeah, and Kuang Ping Tai
Oh, okay.
Chi.
Okay, yeah,
And he
yes,
was very
you're
skilled at each one, also at each one. And I used to help him teach his workshops sometimes. But he would write the calligraphy for Sung, and I would say, okay, that's your calligraphy for Sung. Here's the one I got from my teacher, and it's a different calligraphy, and it means a pine tree. And it means a pine tree based on an old poem that said, the tree stands in the forest, the snow builds upon its limbs. And then suddenly the limbs bow down, about to break, but soon the snow falls away and the tree returns to its natural state. So this was the calligraphy for Sung that meant pine tree, what my teacher wrote. Be like the pine tree, straight spine, limbs relaxing in the breeze, or limbs being completely free of any excess tension. So we used to kid each other. Yeah, we used to kid each other about that all the time. But yes, we do it starting with the sitting, and then we do it with the standing. And then we try very slowly to let the students take it into their moving. I mean, this also helps you remain calm, Violet. If you can know 1,000 martial art techniques, but if somebody attacks you and you lose it all because you're freaked out or scared, then what's the point in knowing all those techniques or methods? So the first thing you need to train is your mind so you can remain calm in the face of great danger. And Sung also can teach you to do that if you understand how to use it that way. So we had two different forms to develop the idea of the Jamjong. One was what I call quiet standing, where you're actually standing in different postures. Henry had 8 postures. I've got about 8 or 9 that you stand in and learn to let go and release and let go and so on and so forth. And this creates whole body relaxation without excess tension. I like to do little experiments with my students and have them hold their arm up, and then I tell them, hold it, hold it, hold it. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to let go now. So just let your arm go limp. And they'll pause, and then they'll drop it. And I'll say, that's not it. If you hold my arm and I move my hand away, it just falls because there's no tension in it. Now, I'm going to put my hand there, and I'm going to slowly release all the tension in my arm. And then I'm going to slowly move my hand away. And I want you to only add as much tension as it takes to keep the arm there. 1 iota less tension and your arm would collapse. That's Sung, when you can find that.
That's great. But John, as an instructor myself, it's sad to say, I don't teach that way. Like you saying, first you guys doing the sitting, and then you're doing 站桩, standing. And nowadays, if I teach classes like that, I'm probably going to lose 90% of the student at the day one. However, this is so badly needed, and the people need to understand it. And it's very, very hard. And
it's hard to do, of course. If you can teach them that they feel like they're doing some kind of new skill or trick, that's one thing. But like my teacher, my teacher just made us stand here until our arms collapsed, and then finally you find it. That was the old way. I found some newer ways to do it. And in our quiet standing, finding sung was kind of a contest to see who could get more and more sung until, it was right there. Then after that, we would talk about learning to move with it. Can you move with this? Okay. And then when you need it, you can fill it up and suddenly be powerful, fajing, and then go back to sung, on and off, like turning a light switch on and off. You can turn it on and turn it off. So that was his first method of jamjong. Then later he had what I referred to as power standing. That was the Jean Dao Li training, where you're standing and it's like each one, and you're filling the body up with energy, and then you release the energy, and you fill the body up with your mind like a balloon inflating, and so on. And you hold every single posture that way. In all of the different arts that you have, that you study, you hold every different posture like that. So you could do it. I mean, I remember, who was it? I was at a Taste of China helping Ben Lowe, and he was doing these postures, and he would put people in this posture and just have them stand there, and then he'd walk away. And then people were just shaking, and finally he would say, okay, now time to rest, change sides. So he just changed sides to do the other posture. This went on for like an hour. A lot of people walked off. BP Chan used to do that also with his Xingyi students. He would let them stand till they basically collapsed. And he would say, oh, you don't want to learn. You don't want to learn. You must train very hard, very hard to be soft. So that was the power standing thing. And it's part of each one. It's part of the each one, or the Li family called it Yi Xin Gong instead of each one. Yi, intention; Xin, attitude or heart; and Gong, skill. So intention, attitude, skill. Because they put a philosophical concept on every single movement, especially in their Bagua So that's what they did. And before you got to do anything else, like their stances or any of that other kind of training, you basically had to do these two things to get there. And I do the same thing with my students today.
Okay. So besides these fundamental things you were trained on, and what other stuff? And I remember at Tai Chi Gala, and you were teaching different Bagua Zhang. There are several different Zhang and all those kind of things. So what does Li family martial art or whatever internal martial art consists of?
Well, their Jibin Gong, or their basics. They start off, as I told you, about the sitting and standing, but you first learned also the 6 basic stances that you find in almost every single Chinese martial art. And you learned that the stance is just an ending part. That what's really important is moving from the bow stance to the back stance to the front stance to the heron stance and so on. You learned how to move the body with stances. But then they had a thing that's very unique. It's called the 5 circles. And it actually is a design or a chart based on showing you the basic methods in which every movement, no matter what it is in a martial art, will utilize one of those angles. And the 5 circles neutralize all of those angles, or they also allow you to strike along those angles. So if you understand the 5 circles correctly, and what they call the square circle, if you understand that correctly, I'll put a picture up of that. Then you can understand the way any martial artist moves, and that gives you a way to devise a method of dealing with whatever is coming at you, no matter what style it is. They had that and the 6 stances, and if you combine them in terms of movement, you've got an entire system of movement that is amazing.
So is that
This was the first thing
the
you
base
studied
foundation of the Bagua Zhang, the
for,
Zhoulong
for their
Bagua
Tai
Zhang?
Chi, their Bagua, and their Xingyi. Everything they did they looked at through the lens of these 5 circles and the 6 stances. Everything. We studied weapons with the 5 circles and the 6 stances. We studied all sorts of things like that at first. And then when you know those 5 circles and 6 stances and you understand them, once you start doing Taiji Chuan or Bagua Zhang or Xingyi Chuan, you will start to notice where those circles are in those forms, in those arts, in those methods.
So you
that
did
was the
not
first
start
thing.
with a form. You did not start
No.
with a form with a sequence, right? You start with the basic elements. You know what?
Yes.
Let me show you something. These 2 Lego people
Yeah.
were made by my students, and they were not very young, under 10 at that time. So I really like these, and a lot of time I show students. I say, you see these little pieces, and that's the basic movements of the Tai Chi Chuan or whatever. And when you assemble it then differently, then you can get a figurine like this, or you get somebody like that.
Oh, right? I see. Yeah.
It's all different the components are the same. It's how you assemble them together. I don't know if I'm interpreting the Lee family system correctly. I think with your 6 stands, right, and the 5 circles, those are the building blocks. And
yes.
Once you have these building blocks, and then you can make any kind of forms or any kind
Absolutely.
of things.
Absolutely.
Do I get it?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
But they didn't really teach traditional forms. They were, I'm going to again try Jia Ting Fa, or it was called a family art. Jia Ting Fa. Yeah. And these family arts, there were a lot of them in China. Many of them have died out, many of them still exist. They were pretty much outside the mainstream of what you might see today. Excuse me, if you go to a tournament or somewhere and everybody's doing a standardized routine or whatever. Li Longdao said that forms were created in the early days for people who were illiterate because they could not read a book. So they had to use the form as a mnemonic system in order to remember principles, techniques, putting them together.
Interesting.
Yes. So they were never involved. Of course, they're not alive now. So they're never involved with the modern Wushu stuff today. When we started, their versions of Taiji Chuan, Bagua Zhang, and Xingyi Chuan, we were taught these as fighting methods, like I said. But one of the ways I expressed it, he said it, but in a different way. I'm going to say it my way. Forms are pantomimes of combat and a repository of martial principles. That's the way forms were taught to us. Now, their Taiji Chuan, they only had the 13 basic moves based on the I Ching and the Wuxing. So we learned the 13 basic moves, and we learned to do them forwards, backwards, sideways, going in circles, back and forth, ward off, roll back, stroke, press, push, pluck, all of that. We learned how to do those.
Yeah.
And then do like your little people there, reconnect them in different ways. He did the same thing with his Xingyi Chuan. He only taught 5 of the Xingyi Chuan moves, which no 12 animals or any of that kind of stuff. He said, all you need are these 5. If you understand how to use each one of them and connect and reconnect them in different ways. So he made us a form that was based on the creative cycle of the Wuxing.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through the form, and then we thought, we got the form. Now we got it. And he says, now do backwards. Okay, so we did that. Now, okay, we got it. No, now take move 1, put with move 3, put move 3 with move 5, put move 5 with move 4. And we're going like, oh no, and finally we realized what he was saying.
Yeah,
Every
well,
one of these movements
yeah.
can be connected and reconnected and connected and reconnected in 100,000 different ways. Just 5 moves, maybe not 100,000, but a lot.
Yeah, in the Chen family training system, and there are so-called 5 stages of learning things. First, you just learn the movements, and then you be corrected and fine-tune whatsoever, and then you learn how to move your qi. And then the number 4 stage is you take it apart.
Yeah.
It's become
Yes.
formless. And then
Yes.
that's the time, of course, the one way to test it is doing the push-in, in the more kind of fighting stages. So you can, how should I say, apply all the things you have learned if you learned it well, right? And then
see, I think this is sad that today this is missing in training. I see so many people, especially on the internet, that think they know Taiji Chuan because they can cough up a form and do a bunch of movements, and they have no clue what the movements could be used for, or how they're used, or anything else.
Exactly.
They're just
but
doing
at the same
movements.
Time, but at the same time, nowadays, very few people, I'm just talking about, according to the Chen system, very few people could even get to the stage 3, not to mention stage 4 and 5. But the way the Master Li Long Dao is teaching you guys, I think it's great, and they show you all these different pieces and then put together, and that's very neat, very, very neat. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, his Bagua you were asking about his Bagua they called it 9 Dragon Bagua and because there are 8 palms. But when you combine all 8 palms, you get the 9th palm, which is all the palms coming and flowing and moving in a synchronous creation. And it was very unique because there are no forms and no routines in his method. You learn these 8 palms and you learn their energetic connections to the Yi Jing. Some people say there's no Yi Jing stuff in Bagua and that's true for some people because Donghai Chuan, who created supposedly Bagua was illiterate, couldn't read, and couldn't study the I Ching. So his methods, while they're great and they're good martial arts, are not the same as this particular method, which later Sun Ludong, by the way, connected the I Ching to the Bagua and Li Long Dao's family were related to the ancient Taoist that was Li Qing Yun. And he also was an army teacher at one time, which a lot of people don't know. And he had his own version of Bagua which is very rare to find anything written about it at all. I've got a few documents that were passed down to me. And his method was directly connected with using the I Ching, each of the attitudes, if you will, of the palms. For example, heaven palm, it's uplifting like this, right? So heaven palm is like the father. It's yang. It's like get out of the way kind of thing. Earth palm, which is Lo Xuanzang, is this coiling movement, which is the mother. It's the 3 broken lines. And it's like, oh, you don't want to do that. It just leads somebody out of the way. It's kind of like you do in Taiji Chuan. So each one of those 8 palms has a separate attitude or emotional content. When you apply the emotional content to the physical movement, the power goes up exponentially.
So you move here and you go. If you do.
Okay.
It's incredible. And so this is what we spend our time working on with those. And then, as you said a minute ago, eventually it becomes freestyle, just moving. but you're expressing each of those attitudes in the movements. And then you take the heaven in one hand and the earth in another, and now you've got, and the 64 guas. So you have 64 methods of playing with it. It's you can never do it in a lifetime. It's just fantastic. I'm still doing it at 80, and I love it, and it's teaching me something every day. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah. That's when people really deep into VR and they find out they really can learn that for life. Just keep learning and more, right?
Yeah, it's a never-ending journey, isn't it?
So you guys also trained in using weapons with all the movements you learned, right?
We learned, excuse me, we learned sword, staff, saber, 3-section staff. We had to make all these things because there were no martial arts stores in those days. We had to make them out of wood and so on. We learned his elbow knives with these big long knives. I think I showed you one of those in the previous video. And we learned how to fight with these. We sparred with the wooden weapons and stuff. There were no forms. It was the guys attacking this way, and you come in and you do this and that and the other. So we learned how to compete with the guy might have a knife and the other guy would have a staff, or the guy might have a spear and the other guy might have, just judge's pins, those needles like looking things, and deal with those. The only weapon we never really learned in the Bagozang was the deer horn knives, because he said they were too hard to conceal. He said they were hard to conceal. So he didn't talk about them very much. But one of my students, Charlie Pascarillo, learned how to do the Bagua dragon knives for me, the elbow knives, and then adapted it to the deer horn things. And I've got a video of him at, I think it was Loretta Wallering's program, where he's demonstrating that. He learned it from learning the 5 circles, the 6 stances, and creating it himself. And so I was very proud of him.
Just a different kind of application, but using all these fundamentals and create a different application.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, and I only saw the deer horn things in movie, but never really see anybody, the martial artists actually were practicing. So it's cool. It's neat.
They're fun, and I've got a pair of them. They're fun and they're cute to play with, but you can't really, if you were talking about trying to go out on the street, you can't really hide those. I went on the subway in New York with my dragon knives. Yeah.
Well, you in Texas, and you don't have a concealed weapon law, so you can carry all.
No, we carry guns and knives all over the place. It's okay. I like it.
Yes. So you can carry a deer horn, a knife.
Yeah, when I was in New York, I was teaching in New York. I went on the subway late at night. This was when they'd had some terrorist threats. And I talked to the cops, and they had machine guns. They were standing out in front of the subway. And then the cop realized after I talked to him that I had done martial training, but also that I was involved in police work. So I opened my coat, and he went, "Oh my God, you're going to get arrested." I said, "What?" I had both my dragon knives underneath in a shoulder holster, my big long dragon knives. And he said, "What are you going to do with those?" I said, "I'm going down on the subway. I'm going to see if I can find anybody who wants some action." He said, "You better go home." I said, "No, I think it'll be fun." So I didn't get any action, but it was kind of fun.
It's interesting. And I was talking to one master in New York, and he was saying actually he was carrying a sword in a case, a sword case, but he saw that there were some kind of questionable people around there, so he turned that things instead of, you're holding up down like this, and then you
Yeah.
hold it like this. It's like the gun is ready to shoot. So
One of the stories that I heard about Li Longdao when they came to the country, they came into New York, and he was fairly old. I think he was probably 70 or something. He was with his son, and he went across the street to get an ice cream cone because he'd never had an ice cream cone before. And the son was on one side of the street and he was on the other. And the son saw these three guys coming towards him, and they looked pretty rough. And Mr. Lee is licking his ice cream cone. The bus came by, big bus came by, and when it passed, these three guys were laying on the ground.
Oh my God.
And Mr. Lee stepped over him and walked across the street. And the boy says, "What happened, Dad? What happened?" And he says, "Don't know. Very funny. Men come up me, they all jump up in air, fall down. I come back." In other words, he took care of them.
Yes.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it ought to be.
Yeah, well, very well, and he
had a lot of stories like that.
Well, I mean, he has so much training. If he was protecting Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, he still had the ice cream cone.
Yeah.
He still had the ice cream cone when he went across the street.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if he was given such a responsibility, and he must have a lot of 真功夫. 真 means true. 功夫, it's real 功夫, right? And so I don't doubt about the validity of that story. And so I guess you're a very good student or disciple of him. Not only you learned it yourself, and then you started martial arts school. I believe that was the first one in Texas, right? And then through all the decades, you continue to teach. And still any highlights you want to talk about to share?
I didn't really want to. I didn't even think about opening a martial arts school. I learned what I learned from him because it changed my life. It saved my life, as we've mentioned in earlier recordings. But I started thinking about teaching, and I opened the first school in 1972. I was not really thinking about it because I was very busy in show business, and I became tired of traveling around, and I was also doing bodyguard work and stuff, living out of a suitcase, and I had a wife and a young daughter. So I came back to Arlington, and I worked at Six Flags over Texas for a while. And then I said, okay, a friend of mine, one of the guys that I was teaching out at Six Flags to do stunt work, excuse me, said, why don't you start a school? So I said, okay. So in 1972, I started what was called the Kung Fu Dao Training Center. Now, that was the first school, the first Wuguan of Chinese martial arts.
Dojo.
Yeah, Wuguan in Texas that was open to everyone. There had been a lot of other schools of Chinese martial arts on the East Coast and the West Coast and San Francisco and New York and so on, but they were closed to anybody that was not Chinese. They were mostly only open to the Chinese people in those days. So I got a couple of interesting letters from people when I opened the school saying I shouldn't have done that and that foreigners didn't need to learn the art. And I said, if you don't learn the arts and we don't share the arts will disappear. So they have to be shared with everybody. And that was my teacher's attitude as well. But what helped out a lot was this was 1972, and a few weeks or months right after I opened this school, little known to me, the Kung Fu TV show with David Carradine started on television.
Mhm.
And then shortly after that, Inside Kung Fu magazine came out and was all over the nation with spreading the word about Kung Fu. So that didn't hurt my enrollment at all once that got started. It helped a lot. Of course, there were a lot of people coming in calling me Venerable Sir or Master, whatever. And I said, no, no, no. I'm just a guy who's been farther down the road than you, and I can show you some things, and I hope it helps your life and helps you be a better person. That's what I did. So
That's great. And you also have been invited to be judges at the tournaments, right?
oh yeah.
And you have done so much, and you have been awarded many different honors by various martial art organization, and I guess the list just go on, and it's incredible. And I'm glad and people recognize your achievement and your contribution, because you not only have taught so many students, you have also written article. Even you you publish a magazine, right? And internal martial art, and to bring the awareness of internal art to the English speaking world. And I think
Yeah.
that's very honorable, and that's
I
great.
wrote 2 books on Bagua as well that were published some years back, and I'm rewriting them again so they can be republished again. They sold quite a bit. And then I've written a lot of books for my students privately, and I'm going to be publishing those for the public pretty soon. I also wrote a lot of articles in Black Belt, Inside Kung Fu, and Karate Kung Fu Illustrated, and all of those kinds of magazines. I was trying to, when I started writing Inside Kung Fu, that was in 1979 or 1980, and there was almost nothing in these magazines about Tai Chi Chuan, Baguazhang, or Xing Yi Chuan. It was all Shaolin, and so on and so forth, because of David Carradine and all that. But nobody knew much about the Baguazhang, so I said, that's a really good idea. I'll start writing about that because I can write about my articles. And so actually, I wrote probably 1 or 2 of the first articles ever written on Baguazhang and Xing Yi Chuan in English in a magazine. Many people followed after that. And then I started teaching Xing Yi and Bagua fully in my Kung Fu Dao school. So that was important. Dave Cater, the editor of Inside Kung Fu, said that the articles that I wrote, and a guy named T.Y. Pang, a very famous Bagua practitioner and Tai Chi practitioner, we wrote the first articles in the West, basically, on these arts. So he said I was kind of helped found that, in the West. That's a bit much, but I did my best to try to let people know what those arts were about. And I didn't just promote my Baguazhang, I promoted other styles of Baguazhang as well. But that's what I became known for, was Baguazhang, even though I do Tai Chi Chuan, I do Xing Yi Chuan, and 3 or 4 other internal martial arts. So that was the beginning. And then after that, the school that we were in right there, we ended up getting a lot of trouble with the building. The manager wouldn't take care of it properly and so on. So we had to move. And I decided to change to a new building and change the name of my school. I was going to teach the same things, I thought, but I called it the Holistic Fitness Center. Now, the reason I did that was that I started catering to the New Age crowd. I thought, well, the New Age movement started in California and partially in New York. And so we're in the middle of the country. And I thought, okay, well, it's going to come this way. It's going to come in here. And then I'll have all these new students learning all this new stuff, meditation and philosophy and all this kind of thing. It was a big mistake. It was a big mistake.
Well, you are ahead of the time, right? And then there's always a risk to be a trailblazer, and
Well,
you
two things
sometimes
happened.
yeah,
What
right.
happened,
So
Violet, was that the movement came this way. It got to Texas, it went over us and went on to New York. And a lot of my old students who loved the martial part and loved what we were teaching them already dropped out. They didn't want to have anything to do with this stuff. And frankly, I realized I didn't really want to become part of it either. So I dropped the whole New Age thing. And that's what I mean by it was a big mistake, because it lost me a
well, I
bunch of
mean,
students.
yeah. Well, nowadays it is big, and recently I actually attended a silent retreat, and for 5 days we did
Uh-huh.
nothing but just meditate and either sitting or walking or
Yep.
and I during the walking period of time I did a lot of tai chi, so it is and coming back. Well, not, I should not say coming back. It's coming up.
Well, yes,
Right.
absolutely. But
Yes,
it was
you were just
already in.
ahead of time. You were just ahead of time, and which is good. I mean, it just
Well, it was already in my system. So
mhm,
that was already there, the meditation and everything. So what I learned from that experience was do what you love and love what you do. And
mhm,
if you do that, people will come. And
mhm,
eventually the people that you need to teach will
mhm.
find you, you know.
Yes.
That's
Except 30
what
years
I
later.
yeah, but I went back to it, and it was very successful for me. So eventually I miscalculated that, and I ended up becoming a judge for Chinese martial arts for a while. That happened because I had a magazine called IAM, Internal Arts Magazine, and inside Kung Fu magazine. This was in the early days before there were hardly any Chinese martial arts tournaments. Jeff Bolt down in Houston, Texas, opened one of the very first ones, and they sent me down there to be a reporter and report on the doings that were going on there. Well, the promoter of the tournament, another one there, he wanted me to become a judge, and I said, "Well, why do you want me to be a judge?" He said, "Well, you know internal arts, and we don't know a whole lot about that, so we'd like for you to be a judge and help out." And that's where I met Madame Wang Zhirong and these other people that were amazing,
Okay.
amazing people, became really good friends. Her husband, Wu
Mhm,
Qing De,
mhm,
we became real close friends. But
mhm.
I said, I think the reason they asked me to be a judge was so that I would write good words for them in the magazine more than anything else. Um, and I enjoyed it because it was an invitation I got from that tournament in Houston to go to um, Winchester, Virginia, with Pat Rice and her, A Taste of China. And that was an amazing, amazing event. But I got to meet Master Jiao Tsung Hua. And Master Zhou
Okay.
Zonghua and I became very close friends after he watched me doing the Li family Bagua.
Mhm,
So that's really something that really helped me move forward in promoting the Chinese internal arts to America, to the world, really. Um,
mhm.
and that was very important. What was funny also was that I was kind of the orphan stepchild in this first tournament. I was, like I didn't do the wushu forms, I didn't do all these other things, and so some of these people were kind of looking down their nose at me, And I said, okay, that's fine, that's fine. And then when I did my demonstration at the teacher's demonstration for the whole thing, it was highly received. And one of the masters from China came up and shook my hand and said, "Nobody has seen that bagua in 50 or 100 years. That's amazing. Thank you." I went home and just had to sit there and just go. I was so freaked out. It was so nice. And then my student, Andy Garza, he won the entire push hands competition. I just swept the whole thing. And he'd never done push hands competition ever before in his life. And my student, Kevin Gimberg, won a medal for his bagwazang, doing our bagwazang. So that kind of helped. And Master Joe then really, really helped by allowing me to come and visit him at his Tai Chi farm.
Yeah, well, Master Joe, yeah, I think he was the man with a grand vision, and
Yes.
he embraced all kinds of internal martial art and really helped to promote it. And
absolutely.
But at the same time, you were so good. I guess he had to get you there and then to be part of the whole things.
Well, he was excited that he was excited that when I met him at a Taste of China, I was told I shouldn't go talk to him, but I did go talk to him, and I had a whole thing about the I Ching that I'd written out on a computer, and he was really interested in it. And then we went out to supper. Later, he invited me to the farm, and he was a little not quite sure about the bagwazang. He thought it was okay, but that time in 1988, there were two visiting masters there, one of whom became a real close friend of mine. The first one was Master Tao Ping Xiang, who was a little skinny, white-headed guy, amazing, amazing master. And Master B.P. Chan, who is gone now, rest his soul. He and I got really close, but they both told Master Joe, "I don't know where this white guy figured out this bagua, but you need to do something to help him out." That they told him that.
I see. Okay.
And I said, "Oh, wow," and so they were watching David Briggs, who's a great chin stylist. Not as good as you, but he's almost.
You are just too kind.
He's a fighter too. And we were doing bagua applications in the field. And they were both watching, and that's when they told Master Joe that, you need to really promote these guys because they know what they're doing. So that was great. And it was that the first year I had a seminar after his Jiansang Feng Festival, and I had 10 people. The next year I had 20, the next year 30, the next year 50. And that's where we started study groups that were teachers that were learning from us and teaching our stuff all around the country and all around the world. And today, many of them are teachers themselves. And that was all credit to Master Zhou Tsonghua, because he wanted to help promote Li family bagwazang. So I can't thank him enough for that.
Well, in Chinese, there word called 英雄惺惺相惜 means, if you're good and you appreciate somebody, is very good. And but a lot of times we see people jealous of others because they're not good themselves. But if they're really good themselves and they know what the supreme techniques or knowledge is, and if they really love the art, and they will cherish that, and so they will help each other. It's just very natural things. Of course, in every industry, and of course in the martial art, we see somebody, they're jealous of other people, but at the same time, maybe it's a reflection. They don't have self-confidence. They're not good enough, right?
Well, I've always tried, especially to say, especially about the bagwazang, if you walk the circle, we're brothers in the circle. I don't care whether you're good, bad, or not. But there's always something more to learn. There's always I don't ever call myself a master. My students calls me Sherfu because it means teacher, father, of a clan, and that I am. But a master is BP Chan didn't say this, but I was at a meeting with him and William C.C. Chin one day, and somebody called William C.C. Chin a master, and he said, "Don't hang your meat on me. I'm not a master. Masters are dead people. They have nothing more to learn." So I thought that was very interesting, and I've kind of hung on to that idea for a long, long time. I always have more to learn.
Really funny. Again, a student of mine, and he constantly sending me a video from YouTube, and then say, "Well, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about that guy?" And this kind of thing. So one time I received this video, and let's just talk about the person called himself great grandmaster.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's what, one of the things somebody said, well, how do you get to be a master? And I said, oh, it's easy. You have cards printed. And then you open a website. Now you're a master.
Yes.
Okay, whatever.
And then you put yourself on YouTube and you call yourself great grandmaster. But at the same time, John, for all seriousness, and I think you deserve the title of a grandmaster, even though you don't even call yourself master. And yes, I mean, for your skill, your knowledge, and your contribution, and then also your humanity. And yeah, I think you deserve that. But I know you. Let's not talk about that now. Let's talk about what you're doing. And you have built a so-called Lee Family University. And then tell us, what is about that?
Well, after I closed the Holistic Fitness Center, I opened a place here where I am talking to you from now, called the Gompa, which is a Tibetan word which means place of quiet study. I didn't want a big 3,000 square foot school anymore. I once told a reporter that 90% of the students in my school are there just as a lark. It's just kind of a hobby for them. But they provide the income for 10% who are seriously dedicated to learning. So finally, I got tired of that whole thing. It was just too expensive. And I opened the Gompa, which is a smaller training center at my home, with an outside training area, an inside training area, and a lot of training areas, and a cabin to come stay in for students. But I only wanted to have those people who were very, very serious. So anybody that was studying with me, I vet them first to find out if they're serious. And even after a year, if they're not serious, I say, maybe you ought to go somewhere else. Because all I'm interested in are people that really want to dedicate themselves and practice. I think that a lot of people will practice when they're in a class, but my definition of a real true practitioner is like somebody who's a definition of an alcoholic. If you're an alcoholic, if you're an alcoholic, you will drink when there's nobody around. If you're a true practitioner,
John,
you will practice when nobody's around.
You're very good with words and analogy or whatever, but I definitely don't like what you just said. But I do understand what you're saying. Yes, it's a dedication. Is you get the joy of doing it. It's like you're addicted to it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
you are a Gong Fu Wusu holic. That's what you are. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you'll practice when there's nobody around.
Yeah. Oh, I practice when there are a lot of people around. I'm very, how should I say? I'm very crazy, and my family sometimes, or not sometimes, all the time, they hate it when we go on vacation. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
where I was. And then there are a lot of people around there. And I just do my Tai Chi.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I'm going on a plane. I'm going in to find a corner and I'm walking a circle, you know, and
Yes.
so that happens.
Yeah,
One of my students had a police officer come up to him because he was walking the circle in the airport right after 9/11, and they thought he was some kind
Okay.
of weird terrorist or something, but he got
Yes.
out of it. It was okay. So yeah, okay. You
Yes.
ask about the university.
Yes.
Actually, on this broadcast, I'm announcing that I am retiring from teaching.
Oh.
I will not be traveling teaching anymore because I will completely retire in next year on October the 3rd,
Next
which
year or this
is
year?
next year,
Oh,
which will
okay.
be the end of my teaching, traveling, and doing anything. Right now, I'm retiring from teaching because I want to devote my time to two things. One, my spiritual practice, my meditation and other things. But two, I want to reach a larger audience, Violet. So I'm creating what I call the Lee Family Internal Arts University online. Now, what this is an actual college of internal arts. It's not a place where you go watch John Painter do a martial art technique or do a video or something like that. It's a series of actual lessons starting with the Lee family's methods of jibe and gong all the way through, and then the methods I described to you earlier, and then a whole school of Lee family Tai Chi Chuan. There's a whole school of Lee family Baguazhang. There's a whole school of Lee family Xing Yi Chuan. And their snake boxing, their ground fighting methods. Then there's a whole school of Lee family's Shin Fu Dao philosophy. And that's a whole lecture series you can watch. All of those things that I was taught and learned all these years from Li Lung Dao will be present there for a student to learn, not just look at, but to actually go through it. And I've got a very reasonable monthly fee that people can pay, and they can stay there as long as they want with no contract. But it's my legacy. It's what I want to leave behind of the Lee family arts. To that end, I've also promoted my inheritor, Ji Ching, and it's Yancey Orchard, Dr. Yancey Orchard in Saskatoon, Canada. The people on the library and also on the university can go and study from him if they want to. And there will be all sorts of information in the university about how to get in touch with these people that are teaching our arts. So hopefully I'm trying to do is leave this information behind so you can gain from it, from beginner to intermediate to advanced. There'll be some controversial stuff. Go
Your
ahead.
teacher will be so proud of you.
Thank you. I hope so. I really hope so.
And probably grateful for what you have done, and then to sustain and then to pass down the art. And Dr. Painter, and I really appreciate and you're sharing your stories with us. And from your stories, I personally have learned so much. And first of all, I had a great fun of listening to you, discussing with you about the art. And I definitely learned so much about the Lee family internal art, both from the techniques as well as the philosophy and the principle behind it. And thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank you because you provided me with a wonderful venue for talking about these arts with my teacher that I hope that I can carry on into the future and into perpetuity. You've been great. I've admired working with you. I've admired doing these things and also watching you perform. I continue to enjoy that.
Let's cut this part out.
No, please leave it in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.